Okay, welcome to Rock Your Event. We are back. That's Ryan. I'm Sue. That's Ryan.
That's me.
There he is.
You still remember my name. I'm impressed.
I do. It's a good thing it's written on the screen because that's very helpful. It's my prompt. Well, again, we have another amazing guest that I'm going to introduce you to in just a moment. All right, we are going to be welcoming Heather Hansen O'Neill. She is an international speaker, author, adventurer, and entrepreneur using her action-packed experience to fire up audiences. She stimulates vibrant energy, focus, and action for those who want to collaborate effectively, lead change, and achieve massive results. With expertise in virtual, hybrid, and live events, as well as her focus on helping individuals and companies break through fears, judgments, and blocks to reach sales and leadership success, Heather's innovative keynotes are in high demand during these changing times. She runs a community for those in transition called The Phoenix, and her new TEDx is entitled Become Conscious, You Must and Can Change the World. We are happy to welcome Heather.
Yay.
Hi, Heather.
Welcome, Heather.
Hello. So nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's been quite a year for everyone. We've been calling it the situation that we've been in. And so you were an international speaker traveling all over, and then everything came to a screeching halt. Tell us a little bit about what happened with your speaking engagements last year.
Oh, yeah, that was fun. So I started getting the calls one by one by one saying, oh, we have to cancel. We have to cancel. I'm like, wait a minute, wait a minute. So I had this moment where I wanted to crawl under the covers and just hope that I'm going to wake up and it's all just a nasty nightmare. And it wasn't. I woke up and there were more calls of things being canceled. So it was difficult. Now, the challenge when you are a speaker with an expertise in change and resiliency is that you kind of have to listen to your own stuff from time to time and take your own advice, right? There's no excuse to be the one under the covers for very long. So, I just kind of said, what can I do? How can we make the most of this? And how can I serve my clients who are in great pain at this moment in time? So it ended up being okay for me.
Yeah, that's so funny that you said that, talking about, this is what you teach. And it's kind of like, oh man, that's always sometimes hard. I gotta listen to my own advice in a very challenging time where I think it's kind of pushed everybody out of that comfort zone of, well, this is what I do. And I do the same talk and I do the same thing. And I know what's going to happen. And it was a little bit of some unknowns, like, okay, well, what's going to happen now? How are people going to respond? Are they going to come to these virtual events? Now, you went to virtual with some of these things, didn't you?
I did. So here's what happened. I had actually my biggest year in the last 10 years booked prior to all of this happening. And every single one of the events, except for one, was literally canceled, not changed. It was canceled. One of them was very proactive and it was a couple of months out. So they were able to do a virtual event and keep me on for that. That was great. That was my first kind of tiptoe into it. Now, full disclosure, it wasn't as difficult for me to transition to doing virtual events as maybe some other speakers because I already had a home studio with external cameras, high quality audio, lights, camera, everything, right? Because I do a lot of video work. And so it was definitely easier for me because I didn't have to go out and purchase all kind of crazy equipment or learn how to use it or learn about how to front light yourself or all of those things that was a learning curve for a lot of people, right? Yes, and so I was I consider myself very lucky with that. And then people just started to come on board, and when you reach out and you ask how you can help people, they realize that you can, and then it turns into some business. That's how karma works, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
And I'm curious with that initial transition, you've got all these
Mhm.
events lined up, you're going to be traveling, all that goes away, kind of put your head under the covers and then you bring it back out and it's like, okay, how can I help people? What were some of the early adoption of technology? How were you
Mhm.
finding that to work or not work? And then what are you kind of currently doing today with all the learning that you gained last year?
Okay, so those are really good questions, but there's multiple answers.
Yeah.
So I'll try. If I forget any of them, come bring me
I'll
back
come
in,
back.
okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So in the beginning, it was, I think Zoom was mostly the format that people would turn to because many of them had already used it for their meetings. Some people were using Teams, some people were, there were a lot of different initial easy ones that they had already used
Mhm.
for in some capacity within their organization. The topics that for me in particular were brought back right away had to do mostly with employee engagement, like how do we make the people that we have be okay, and that's kind of a forte of mine. So there was a lot of that. There was also I'm about to fire half of my staff. How can we also make them feel okay? So
Right.
Mm.
there was a lot of kind of crazy topics going around, but that were really, really important. So I felt like I was doing very worthwhile work helping
Mm.
people through the transition. But I got to tell you, not all events ran smoothly.
All right.
Most in the beginning had some glitches, but what happens is that you learn what to prepare for as a speaker in this world. You can't have the same mentality that
Mm.
you may have had in the past, meaning that in the past, you could basically just say, okay, tell me where to show up and what time at the airport and what car service is going to come and get me on the other side, and then somebody will mic me, I'll get on the stage and have at it. It's not like that anymore. You have to be in charge of your own technology, your own the bandwidth that you have. Are you able to, what is your backup plan? What is the backup to your backup plan when
Mhm.
something happens? And it's not even if something happens, is when, so you learn a lot, I think, about being prepared. I
Mm.
feel more like a planner than a speaker sometimes.
That's
Yeah.
All
funny.
Did
right,
that
thank
help?
you. Yeah, it did, and I'm curious with the technology. We were talking to another keynote speaker yesterday, or not yesterday, the prior week, Stephen Opleton, and he talked really about the technology and how much he's
Mhm.
had to like step up his game. So he didn't
Yeah.
necessarily have all the technology that you already
Ah,
have, but
mhm.
he'll bring teams in, and so I'm curious, do you feel like you have enough expertise that you're able, are you like the one man band, the guy that's got he's got the cymbals between the
The
elbows and
monkey?
the
Are you
drum, and then he's
calling me
got
a monkey, Robert?
No, no,
Seriously?
not that.
Dude,
no.
did you just call me a monkey?
But
Yeah,
versus
seriously, that's what I
the
feel
four
like
piece
sometimes.
band,
Yeah.
that has that support.
No, okay, so I'm gonna say yes and no, and it depends on what I'm doing. So I do have support. I have a tech person who I'm lucky enough to live with, so that's very helpful.
Same
Um,
same
and
age or a little younger than you as far as, like
Oh, no,
child or
you're
partner?
thinking that my tech person is my teenager, but no,
Yeah.
my tech person is actually my boyfriend. But
Okay.
so yeah, but so I have done when I go as a keynote speaker for most of my corporate events, the technology is presented to me. I don't come to the table with the technology. They choose the platform. They decide what they have clearance for, what has worked for their organization, because these are very large events. These are for, a couple of thousand people. And so, sometimes they're smaller, but it's not something that I come in with technology. I come in with my content and performance, we'll call it expertise, and they have that. However, I also run my own events. And in that
Mm.
case, I have people that help me, that moderate for me, that are behind the cameras. I have people that that guide me. I've got my, people that I partner with different technologies, depending on what we need. Like you guys, this is what you do, and I can't wait to partner with you on some events.
Yeah.
So, it's important to recognize that even if you see yourself as a solopreneur, that you're not, that you have a team, you just may not call them your team, So look for the people who can support you and who you can support, and grow your business that way.
I could not agree more. I mean, that from a business standpoint in general, and especially when it comes to doing these events, and I know a lot of people are, they are the solopreneurs. They're very small, and they're kind of like, I'm just going to do a little Zoom, and I'm just going to do this, and I'm just going to do the best I can. And, reach out and find other people that can help you, and maybe take it to the next level, and really take it to that professional level like you're talking about. So
exactly.
Good. So I have a question, and I don't want to make this uncomfortable, but since we went from being in person, and you are a paid speaker, keynote speaker, we went to virtual. Was there ever an issue with what your fee was? I don't need to know what your fee is, but was there ever an issue, going from, hey, live to, well, it's just virtual, I say.
Oh yeah. There was definitely a learning curve all the way around with that one. So, what's interesting is that it's kind of expected, right? That when we're going through change, that people are going to try to push the envelope, right? And so we just have to communicate. We have to communicate with each other. We have to work with each other while still respecting our own value and what other people bring to the table, their value, right? And so I did have some organizations that I worked with that had that it's just virtual mindset, and did say, there were a lot of people that expected me to do my presentations for free, right? Now, this is what I do for a living. So, my kids have to eat. So, however, there are always, like, if it's a cause, if it's something near and dear to my heart, that's a different story. But when we're talking to a company that's a for-profit company, we have to understand that not only does the speaker put in just as much time and effort and expertise in the content, in customizing it, but now there's additional things that they have to do and have to buy and have to prepare for. So there's actually a lot more. What a company can be assured that they can reduce in the cost is travel. So, you can reduce the airfare right now, not even, not for very much longer though, folks, for those of you who are getting excited. But, most companies did not keep trying to push the envelope because they know the value. They know that there is an ROI when I'm coming to do a sales presentation. The people on the other end will sell more when they have strategies. So, if you're working with the right people, they totally get it. They really, really do.
Yep, I agree with you. And you're coming on with your expertise, and you're still giving the same content, and you're still looking for the same result. And if they get that result, you're still worth the same amount. That's ultimately what it is,
Yeah, definitely. But the communication is always the key. Go ahead, Sue. Sorry.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, it's always about communication. So as a keynote speaker, where do keynote speakers need assistance right now? Do you feel?
Okay, we need to support each other, because anyone, not just keynote speakers, but I think anyone right now is feeling the pressure of the prolonged uncertainty, the still lack of clarity in the timing of when all of this is going to end or change or get better, or whatever it might be, whatever the term is that people need. So we need to constantly be present with each other and support each other and come from a place of service and see what we can do to help each other. I think that's first and foremost. And actually stop and listen to the answer and the body language. When you say to someone, how are you? How are you really? And to not just go past the I'm fine. If you don't feel like that I'm fine is sincere, ask again or differently. So that's the first one, I think, for anyone. When it comes to speakers, I think that we need to get creative in those partnerships that we talked about, in the content, making sure that your content is still, and even, well, I shouldn't say more than ever, but still just as valuable. And that means that you may need to change it. You may need to ask your clients more about what they need and adapt and give them some different things or different ways of presenting it so they can be heard better. So there's a lot of things that we can do to improve. I'm a fan of ongoing, ever growing, improvement. So, yeah.
So, and I know I mentioned in your bio that you have a group called the Phoenix, and that is
Yeah.
kind of, you said people in transition. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because that's kind of a very supportive organization that you have going on.
Oh yeah, I just love it. I created it almost a year ago now, maybe 11 months ago, and I did it purely from there's a need, my clients need help, because it started out as for meeting professionals in transition, those people in this industry that has been really hit hard, that were furloughed, laid off, whatever, that they needed help. And so because my area of expertise, like I had mentioned, is in change, some of the help came into like, how do we deal with that? The mindset piece. But then there was a big part of it that was the community. How can I bring experts like you guys to them to help them with technology? How can I bring them recruiters or resume people if they're looking for jobs? How can I help them build rapport with other people who might make a great partnership together to start a new business? So those are things that I was thinking about providing. And the interesting thing is when you really come from that mindset, I will tell you that I've gotten just as much from working with the Phoenix than I have put into it, because they're extraordinary. They're an extraordinary group of people, and it is evolving. We've got a Phoenix Amplified for some of the members who have launched their businesses and want to help some of the newer members. We've got another launch that's coming up for other people outside of the meeting industry that are in transition. So, when you do the right thing, I think people appreciate it and it comes back.
Yeah.
And
I totally agree.
And how nice it is to know that you're not on an island, right? Because I think so many times people who are not in corporate environment or don't have a larger business, they're kind of, that solo entrepreneur. Solo doesn't have to be solo.
Exactly, Ryan. Totally. And we get such great ideas when we just kind of riff off of each other and we're like, hey, what about this? What about that? Yeah. So everybody goes away with, oh my gosh, I've got to do that thing. And then there's the whole, now you got to go do the thing. Yeah.
Right?
Is that the cupboards again? I gotta bring the cupboards down, get out.
Right.
Well, accountability helps a lot with follow through on taking the actions that you say you want to take.
Yeah. Definitely,
Yes.
especially if it's with a community that you learn to appreciate and respect, right? Because I don't have to follow up with people I don't respect, where I'm much more expecting of myself to do that with those that I do respect and want to honor also. So yeah, I love the community aspect.
Definitely.
That's great.
Love that.
So as we move forward, we've talked about many times, and we've had conversations too about the hybrid event, a little bit in person, a little bit virtual. So how are you feeling about doing those? Trying to have two different audiences kind of at the same time.
Okay, so I have already done several hybrid events, and I have some more coming up. And maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment, but I kind of like them. As long as the planners who are putting it together recognize that it is really two different events. They have to be taking into consideration the experience for both audiences, and it needs to be a little different, right? And so for me, though, I enjoy it. I like the variety of trying something new and learning how to engage both audiences. And it's different from company to company to figure out what they're looking for and engaging with the team ahead of time as to what are you looking to accomplish? How can I help you with that? And maybe come up with additional ideas. Like, I just had a great call. Well, actually, the event took place, but we had a great call leading up to a national sales conference that I did a keynote for, and they were stuck in this one area, and I just off the cuff said, well, what if I do this interview of some of these frontline workers and we incorporate it into the thing? And I hadn't really thought it through, because that meant that if they said yes, I had to actually go do the thing, which they did, and they did the thing. So that's how it works when you're a creative person and you come up with ideas like, no, they liked it. But but that's what you have to do. You have to think beyond the norm. You have to think. I hate the outside of the box thing, because that implies there's a box. But differently.
Well,
yeah,
go ahead, Sue.
Go ahead.
I was going to say all beliefs have limitations. So it's just a matter of how big that box is. I'm curious, though, one of the earliest things that you said had to do with the hybrid event, and then it really kind of depends on who's planning the event, them understanding that this is really two different events. Any advice from your end as far as a keynote speaker that you can give to event planners that are going to help them make it easier on the keynote speaker, and then two, help their event be more successful for both audiences?
Sure. That's really, really good question, Ryan. And, for the most part, planners do this. Okay. So I'm not saying that this is new, but there are some that don't. So the communication aspect that I mentioned earlier is really, really important to absorb from all of the players their expertise. Because if you think as the planner that you're used to controlling all of it, right? And deciding and laying it out and plotting for the plans B, C, D, and E for things live that are going on. But I find that the events that I do that are most successful include working with planners that listen and ask for the expertise of their tech crew, that listen and ask for the expertise of their keynote speaker, that do that with everybody, and it becomes greater than the parts. The event itself, when you really ask and take the advice of these people that you're paying because they're experts, but engaging them in, what's worked for you, or what's the idea that you have on this. And when I work with planners who do that, events are amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's working with and as a team, which is what we love to do too. And why I think Ryan and I are a great team, because he's my technical guy. I tell everybody all the time. And I'm the one who comes up with these creative ideas, and I'm like, this, if we could do this. And Ryan's like, yeah, I'm going to have to figure out how to do that. I think we can do it.
Yeah.
So that's great.
And I love, Heather, part of what you said there is the fact that everybody's kind of unique. You didn't say it directly, but I kind of felt underneath it, everyone's unique. So if you're the cook in the kitchen, kind of understanding the unique abilities that each team brings. So that means each event kind of reaching out to the different people and going, okay, how can we adjust, modify, and make things work in a way that's going to be successful for everybody? And who doesn't love a win-win-win situation?
Yes. I love that. And I love that you brought up, Ryan, about the uniqueness, because yes, maybe I didn't say it, but it is totally the underlying what I meant, because it's like any team. An event is just working like any team, right? Appreciating, cultivating a team that is diverse, where everyone's not the same with the same ideas and the same backgrounds, that you have a diverse team with different cultures and different backgrounds and experiences, that's when, when you bring a team like that together, you're going to get a much better result, a better outcome, a more creative one that solves more problems. So it's the same thing with an event. If you think of it as appreciating the diversity of the team and their expertise and their experience, you're really going to get a much better result. And that's your end event and the experience that the attendees walk away with.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, okay. So where can we find you? Do you have any talks that we can maybe see? Where can we find you? All of that good stuff.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm everywhere. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's because I live with myself. But no, you can find me at heatherhanseno'neill.com. I'd love for anyone who's interested to check out my new TEDx. You mentioned it in the beginning. I really had a great time putting that together and researching that. That was a lot of fun. I do events all the time. Now, most of the time, what we're talking about here with the corporate events, they're not necessarily open to everybody, but I also do association work. So, if you just check out, you can connect with me on LinkedIn or, reach out to me via email. I'm an open book. Anyone can connect with me and ask me any questions that you might have. I love to meet new people.
That is fantastic.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much for being here today. It's so nice to see you. I'm hoping I'm going to put this on my wish list for the next year, that I get to see Heather Hansen O'Neill in person.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that. I'm adding it to mine too. We'll double it. Ryan, add it to yours too.
Definitely.
That is
I
awesome.
love it.
Thank you
guys
so much.
This has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
We will talk to you very soon. All right. I just love her.
She's
She's
got
so
a lot
amazing.
of energy, but very
I
positive
know.
too. I can see,
Yes.
she talked a little bit about mindset and where she can bring the mindset. And I think that's huge for keynote speakers also, right? It's not only providing good
Yes.
information, but being able to engage people in a way that they can think beyond where they're at today. How powerful
Yeah.
that's got to be.
Absolutely. I think mindset is probably one of the biggest things we could be working on right now, especially with everything going on. So,
Yeah, definitely.
so we're just thrilled to have Heather here, and we'll be
Yeah,
back
great.
next week, next Tuesday,
Next
4
Tuesday,
p.m.
4 p.m. Pacific
time.
time.
We're
Yeah,
gonna have another special guest. Are you just repeating everything I'm saying?
I am. I mean, you're doing such a good job. I'm just
Oh,
trying to, learn from you.
of course. Sure.
All right, Sue, until next time, I hope you have a great week, and I will see
Bye.
you on the next show.